I did not call the police. I did not storm into her office and demand answers. Instead, I sat in my daughter's guest bedroom, staring at the documents I had just pulled from her printer, and felt my heart crack into pieces I knew would never fit back together the same way. The paper was still warm. Elderly asset liquidation strategy, it said across the top. Below that, a spreadsheet. Names, ages, estimated net worth, vulnerability scores. 15 names, 15 elderly people. And next to number 7, in red, Margaret Chen, 79, widow, $2. 3M liquid assets, early stage dementia. No children priority target. My hands were shaking so badly the paper rattled. I'm Harold Castellano, 68 years old. Retired investment banker, widower for 3 years. Father to Sarah, my only child. My pride, my joy. The little girl who used to fall asleep on my chest while I read her bedtime stories about brave knights and loyal dragons. That little girl was now running an elder fraud operation out of the home office of her 5-bedroom colonial in Westchester County. Let me back up. I hadn't planned to find anything. I'd come to visit Sarah and her husband Marcus for Thanksgiving weekend. It was our first holiday without my wife Janet, and Sarah had insisted, "Dad, you can't be alone for Thanksgiving. Come stay with us, please." So I drove up from Baltimore on Wednesday evening. The house looked perfect, like it always did. Sarah had done well for herself. Corporate attorney, or so she told me. Marcus ran some kind of consulting business. They had the big house, the luxury cars, the country club membership. I was proud of them. When I arrived, Sarah greeted me with a tight hug. "Dad, you made it! How was the drive?" "Easy. Traffic wasn't bad at all." Marcus appeared behind her, hand extended. "Harold, good to see you." His handshake was firm, professional. It had always felt more like a business transaction than family affection, but I'd learned to accept that about Marcus. "You too, Marcus. Let me show you to the guest room," Sarah said, already grabbing my overnight bag. "I've got it all set up for you. Fresh towels, extra blankets if you need them." The guest room was on the 2nd floor, at the end of the hall. It was nice. Generic hotel nice. The kind of room that said guest, not beloved father. But I wasn't there to critique interior design. That first night, Thanksgiving Eve, was pleasant enough. We had wine and cheese. Sarah told me about her latest case, something about corporate mergers. Marcus talked about his consulting clients. I shared stories about my golf league. Normal stuff, family stuff. I went to bed early. The drive had tired me out more than I wanted to admit. Getting old wasn't for cowards. Thanksgiving Day was picture perfect. Sarah cooked a feast. Turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, 3 kinds of pie. We ate around 2 o'clock, the 3 of us, making small talk and pretending we were the kind of family that did this comfortably. But I noticed things. Little things. Sarah and Marcus kept checking their phones, not casually, urgently. And when I asked about it, Sarah would laugh it off. "Just work stuff, Dad. Never stops, you know." At one point, Marcus left the table entirely to take a call. He was gone for 20 minutes. When he came back, he and Sarah exchanged a look I couldn't quite read. After dinner, Sarah suggested I take a nap. "You look tired, Dad. Why don't you rest? We'll clean up." I wasn't tired, but I went upstairs anyway. Something in the air felt off. That old banker instinct, the one that had saved me from bad deals more times than I could count, was tingling. I lay on the guest bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Sarah and Marcus talking downstairs. I couldn't make out the words, but I could hear the tone. Sharp, focused, not the lazy post-Thanksgiving conversation of a satisfied couple. Around 6 o'clock, I got up to use the bathroom. That's when I heard Sarah's voice, coming from behind the closed door of her home office, just 2 doors down from the guest room. "No, Margaret, listen to me. The market is crashing. We need to move your assets now. Today. If we don't, you're going to lose everything." A pause. "I know it's Thanksgiving. That's exactly why we need to do this today. The scammers know everyone's distracted. They're hitting accounts right now." My blood went cold. I moved closer to the door, my sock feet silent on the hardwood floor. "Transfer it to the secure account I set up for you," the one we talked about. It's protected from the crash. Yes, I'm sure. Margaret, I'm a licensed attorney. I would never steer you wrong. You're like family to me. Another pause. Longer this time. All of it. Every penny in that Wells Fargo account. The criminals have your account number. I saw it on the list. Transfer it to the new account and I promise you, it'll be safe. I felt sick. Perfect. Yes, I'll wait on the line while you do it. Don't hang up. I need to make sure the transfer goes through properly. I stood frozen outside that door for what felt like an hour, but was probably only 10 minutes. Finally, Sarah's voice came through again. Different now. Victorious. Wonderful. The transfer completed. You're safe now, Margaret. Crisis averted. A pause. No, don't thank me. That's what family's for. Now you get some rest. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. I'll call you next week to check in. The call ended. I heard Sarah's chair creak. I had approximately 5 seconds before that door opened. I moved fast, back down the hall, into the bathroom. I turned on the faucet, splashed water on my face, tried to make my hands stop shaking. My daughter, my Sarah, the little girl who'd cried when she accidentally stepped on a beetle, the teenager who'd volunteered at the senior center every Sunday, the woman who'd held my hand at her mother's funeral and promised we'd get through it together. That woman had just scammed an elderly widow out of what sounded like her life savings. I looked at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. Pale, old, shocked. But under the shock, something else was building. Something cold and calculating. The part of me that had spent 40 years in investment banking. The part that knew how to spot a scam. The part that knew how to build a case. I turned off the faucet and went back to the guest room. That night, after Sarah and Marcus went to bed, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing. I kept thinking about that phone call. About Margaret. About the other 14 names on that list I hadn't seen yet. Around 2 a.m, I got up. The house was silent. I crept down the hallway in my pajamas and stood outside Sarah's office door. It was locked, but I'd noticed something earlier. The office window faced the side yard, and there was a trellis right next to it. The kind they used for climbing roses. I'm 68 years old. I've had 2 knee replacements and a hip surgery. But I've also got a daughter running an elder fraud scheme, and that put steel in my spine. I went downstairs, out the back door, and around the side of the house. The November air was freezing. My breath came out in clouds. The trellis looked less sturdy than I'd hoped, but I climbed it anyway, slowly, carefully, trying not to think about what would happen if I fell and broke something. The office window was locked, but it was old. I wiggled it, put some pressure on it. Finally, it gave, sliding up with a squeak that made me freeze for a full minute, listening for any sound from inside the house. Nothing. I climbed through the window and into Sarah's office. The computer was in sleep mode. I jiggled the mouse, and the screen lit up. No password required. Sarah had left herself logged in. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures. The spreadsheet was right there on the screen. All 15 names, all 15 elderly people. Ages ranging from 72 to 87, net worth estimates, vulnerability assessments, contact frequencies, success rates. My stomach turned. This wasn't amateur hour. This was sophisticated, professional. They'd been doing this for a while. I scrolled down, found notes on each target. Margaret Chen was number 7. Completed, 11/24, $2. 3M transferred. Awaiting cooldown period before next contact. I kept photographing. Every document, every spreadsheet, every note. Then I found the bank accounts. Multiple LLC names I didn't recognize. Transfers in and out. Millions of dollars. And buried in the records, transfers to personal accounts belonging to Sarah and Marcus. They'd stolen approximately $8 million over the past 14 months. I photographed it all. Then I saw the email folder. Prospects. I clicked it open, and there, in the most recent emails, I found messages between Sarah and Marcus discussing their strategy. One, from Marcus to Sarah, dated 2 weeks ago. Your dad's coming for Thanksgiving. Worried he'll notice something. Should we postpone the Chen transfer? Sarah's response. No, Dad's old and trusting. He won't suspect anything. Besides, he still thinks I'm his perfect little girl. We can work around him. I had to grip the desk to stay standing. Another email, this one from Sarah to Marcus, dated 6 months ago. Maybe we should bring Dad into this. He's got connections in the banking world. Could help us find more targets. And honestly, what's he gonna do? Report his own daughter? He'd never. Marcus's response. Too risky. Your dad's old school. Might not understand modern wealth transfer strategies. Let's keep him in the dark. Modern wealth transfer strategies. That's what they were calling it. I took pictures of everything. Then I carefully closed all the windows on the computer, wiped my fingerprints off the mouse, and climbed back out the window. The climb down was harder than the climb up. My hands were numb from the cold. My legs were shaking. But I made it. Back in the guest room, I sat on the bed and looked through the photos on my phone. The evidence was overwhelming, damning, complete. I could call the police right now. End this tonight. Watch my daughter get arrested on Thanksgiving night. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the part of me that still saw the little girl she used to be. Or maybe it was the strategic part of my brain, the part that knew there was more here than just Sarah and Marcus. This operation was too big, too smooth. They had to have accomplices. Lawyers to set up the fake LLCs, bankers to facilitate the transfers, maybe more people running similar schemes with other targets. If I called the police now, Sarah and Marcus would get arrested, sure, but the others might escape. And worse, some of this money might never be recovered. These elderly people might never get their savings back. No, I needed a better plan. I needed to play the long game. The next morning, Friday, I came down to breakfast, acting like everything was normal. Sarah made pancakes. Marcus read the newspaper. I smiled and ate, and talked about maybe going to see a movie later. Actually, Dad, Sarah said, pouring me more coffee, Marcus and I have some work to catch up on today. Do you mind entertaining yourself? There's a great walking trail nearby, if you want to get some exercise. Sure, sweetheart, no problem. They disappeared into the office together. I heard the lock click. I went for a walk, but not on any trail. I drove to the library in town and used their public computer to create a new email address. Then I started digging into the LLC names I'd seen on Sarah's spreadsheets. 3 hours later, I had a fuller picture. The LLCs were registered in Delaware. The registered agent was a law firm in Manhattan. The bank accounts were spread across 4 different banks. This was bigger than just Sarah and Marcus. I drove back to the house. They were still locked in the office. I made myself a sandwich and sat in the living room, pretending to watch TV. Around 4 o'clock, Sarah emerged. She looked stressed, tired. Hey, Dad. Sorry we've been so busy. Work emergency. No problem, sweetheart. Everything okay? Yeah, just client stuff. You know how it is. I smiled. I do. That night at dinner, I made my move. Sarah, I said, setting down my fork. I need to talk to you about something. She looked up, instantly wary. What is it, Dad? It's about my finances. I've been thinking, and I'm getting older. I should probably start thinking about estate planning, asset protection, that sort of thing. You're a lawyer. Can you help me? Sarah's expression changed. The wariness disappeared, replaced by interest. Of course, Dad. I'd be happy to help. I've got about $4 million in liquid assets. Investments, savings, the house. I want to make sure it's protected. And honestly, I'm not as sharp as I used to be. Sometimes I forget things. I'm worried about making bad decisions. I saw the look pass between Sarah and Marcus. It was quick, but I caught it. Dad, Sarah said slowly, that's really smart of you to be thinking about this. A lot of elderly people wait too long, and they end up vulnerable to scammers. Let me put together some options for you. Would you? That would be wonderful. I trust you completely, sweetheart. Her smile was warm, loving, completely fake. Of course, Dad. That's what family's for. I went to bed that night knowing I'd just painted a target on my back. But I'd also just become their next victim. And they had no idea I was setting them up. Over the next few days, I played my role perfectly. The slightly confused elderly man. I asked Sarah to explain things twice. I forgot Marcus's name once. I mentioned being worried about those scammers you hear about on the news. Sarah ate it up. She started talking about setting up a protected trust for me. Marcus mentioned a secure LLC structure that would keep my assets safe. I nodded along. Asked questions that made me sound naive. Signed papers they put in front of me after barely reading them. But every night, after they went to bed, I photographed everything, documented everything, and I made copies of all the documents they gave me, scanning them at the library and uploading them to a secure cloud account. I also did something else. I contacted Margaret Chen. It wasn't hard to find her. She was listed in the same documents I'd photographed. I drove to her house one afternoon while Sarah and Marcus thought I was at the movies. Margaret lived in a modest ranch house in a quiet neighborhood. She answered the door with a cautious smile. "Can I help you, Mrs. Chen? My name is Harold Castellano. I'm Sarah Montgomery's father. May I come in? I have something important to discuss with you." Her face went pale. "Sarah? Is she all right?" "She's fine. But I'm afraid I have some very difficult news to share with you. May I come in?" She let me in. I sat in her living room and told her everything. Showed her the photographs. Explained what Sarah had done. Margaret started crying. I trusted her. She said she was protecting me. "I know. I'm so sorry. But I want to help you get your money back." "How?" "I need you to trust me for a little while longer. Don't contact the police yet. Don't alert Sarah that you know. I'm building a case that will not only get your money back, but will make sure Sarah and everyone she's working with face consequences. But I need more time. Can you give me that?" Margaret wiped her eyes. "How do I know I can trust you?" "You don't. But I'm a father who just found out his daughter is a criminal, and I'm trying to do the right thing. That's all I can tell you." She looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Okay, I'll wait. But please hurry. That money was my late husband's life insurance. It's all I have." "I know. I promise I'll fix this." I visited 6 more of the victims over the next week. They all agreed to wait, to trust me. Some of them were angry. Some were heartbroken. All of them were scared. But they all agreed to give me time. Meanwhile, Sarah's plan for my assets was moving forward. She'd set up an LLC in my name, opened a new bank account, was preparing to transfer my investments into the protected structure. I let her think it was working, but I was also contacting authorities, not the local police. I went bigger, FBI Financial Crimes Division. I sent them everything I had. Every photograph, every document, every email. And I told them I was willing to wear a wire. The FBI agent I spoke with, a woman named Jennifer Torres, was skeptical at first. "Mr. Castellano, you understand what you're proposing? You want to record your own daughter admitting to federal crimes?" "Yes. That's going to be difficult for you." "I know. But 7 elderly people have been robbed of their life savings. If I don't do this, Sarah walks away and does it to 7 more. Agent Torres studied me. "You're a brave man, Mr. Castellano." "I'm not brave. I'm heartbroken. But I'm also a father who failed somewhere along the line. And this is how I make it right." The wire was tiny, invisible under my shirt. I wore it for 3 days before I got what I needed. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Sarah had invited me to her office to finalize the asset transfer. "Okay, Dad," she said, pulling up documents on her computer. "This is the final step. Once you sign this transfer authorization, your assets will be moved into the protected account, safe from scammers, safe from market crashes, safe from any confusion you might have as you get older. And you'll manage it for me?" "Exactly. I'll make sure everything is handled properly. You won't have to worry about a thing." That's such a relief. I've been so worried. Sometimes I feel like my mind isn't as sharp as it used to be. That's completely normal, Dad. That's why you're doing this. To protect yourself. And I'll still have access to the money? If I need it? Sarah hesitated. Just for a second. Of course, though there might be a small waiting period for withdrawals. Just to ensure everything stays secure. How long of a waiting period? Oh, just a few weeks. Maybe a month or two, depending on the amount. I see. I picked up the pen. And this is similar to what you did for Margaret Chen? She said you helped protect her assets too. Sarah's face froze. What? Margaret Chen, the widow on Fairview Road. She mentioned you'd helped her with a similar situation. Dad, I don't know any Margaret Chen. Really? Because I found this in your files. I pulled out a photocopy of the spreadsheet. Put it on her desk. Sarah's face went white, then red. Dad, what are you doing? Did you go through my files? I did, and I found a lot of interesting things. Like the $8 million you and Marcus have stolen from elderly victims over the past year. She stood up. Dad, you don't understand. This is complicated business stuff. You're confused. I'm not confused, Sarah. I'm 68, not senile. I spent 40 years in investment banking. I know exactly what this is. Marcus appeared in the doorway. He must have heard raised voices. What's going on? Your father-in-law has been snooping, Sarah said, her voice cold now. The loving daughter mask was gone. He found the client files. Those aren't clients, I said. They're victims. Marcus stepped into the room and closed the door behind him. Harold, you need to calm down. You're upset, and you're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking very clearly. Clearly enough to document everything. Clearly enough to contact the FBI. And clearly enough to wear a wire to this conversation. The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah's hand went to her mouth. Marcus looked like he might be sick. You're bluffing, Marcus finally said. I unbuttoned my shirt collar and showed them the wire. I'm not. Sarah collapsed into her chair. Dad, please. I can explain. Go ahead. We were going to pay them back. It was just temporary. We had some investments go bad, and we needed liquid capital, and we were going to return everything once we recovered. With whose money? The money you were about to steal from me? She started crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. How did it start, Sarah? When did my daughter turn into someone who preys on widows? I don't know. It just happened. One of Marcus's consulting clients was an elderly man, and he mentioned having trouble managing his accounts. And Marcus saw an opportunity, and it was supposed to be just once, just to get us through a rough patch. But then it was so easy, and we needed more. And she broke down completely. I looked at her, my daughter, crying at her desk, and I felt nothing but sadness. The FBI is outside, I said quietly. They're going to come in now. They'll arrest both of you. You'll be charged with wire fraud, identity theft, elder abuse, and about a dozen other federal crimes. You're looking at 20 years minimum. Dad, please. Please don't do this. I'm your daughter. I know. That's why this is the hardest thing I've ever done. But those people you stole from? They're someone's mother, someone's father, someone's grandmother. They trusted you, and you destroyed them. There was a knock at the door. FBI. Open the door, please. I walked to the door and opened it. Agent Torres and 4 other agents came in, Sarah Montgomery and Marcus Montgomery. You're under arrest for wire fraud. I tuned out the rest of the Miranda rights. I watched them handcuff my daughter and her husband, watched them led out of the house. Sarah looked back at me once, her face streaked with tears. Dad, please. I said nothing. After they were gone, I sat in Sarah's office for a long time. Agent Torres sat with me. We're going to recover most of the money, she said. Your cooperation means we got to it before they could move it offshore. You saved these people, Mr. Castellano. I didn't save anyone. I failed my daughter long before she failed those people. You did the right thing. Did I? I'm not sure anymore. I went back to Baltimore the next day, sold my house. I couldn't stay in the place where Janet and I had raised Sarah. Too many memories of the girl she used to be. I used part of my savings to establish a victim support fund, made sure every penny stolen was returned to the victims. Even added some of my own money to cover their legal fees and financial counseling. Margaret Chen sent me a thank you card. So did 3 others. They didn't know what else to say. Neither did I. Sarah and Marcus pleaded guilty. She got 15 years. He got 18. They'll be out when they're in their 50s. Still time to rebuild their lives. I don't visit her in prison. She writes me letters. I read them. I don't respond. I don't know what to say. Maybe I was too distant when she was growing up, too focused on work, too absent. Maybe she learned from me that money matters more than people. Maybe I taught her, without meaning to, that success was measured in dollars. Or maybe people just make choices, bad choices, and sometimes those choices can't be unmade. I'm 70 now. I volunteer at a senior center in my new town. I help elderly people understand their finances, spot scams, protect themselves. It's my penance. Sometimes people ask if I have any children. I tell them I had a daughter once. They don't press for details. At night, I think about Sarah, about the little girl on my chest, listening to stories about brave knights. And I wonder when she stopped believing in the stories. When she decided to become the dragon instead. I'll never know the answer. But I know this. Love isn't always enough. Sometimes justice matters more, even when justice means destroying the person you love most. I did not call the police right away. I did not confront them immediately. Instead, I built a case. I gathered evidence. I made sure that when I acted, it would count. And it did count. 7 victims got their money back. Dozens of potential victims were spared. An entire fraud network was dismantled. But late at night, when I can't sleep, I still hear her voice. Dad, please. And I still wonder if I did the right thing. I'll wonder that for the rest of my life.